And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion about Star Trek. Today we're talking about Star Trek the original series, The Ultimate Computer. I don't know why I said it like that, but I'm joined by our Dadmiral, our Trek Cat, Ian. Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming. Our sub commander has decloaked to join us, which is very cool. And our lovely EGT has come to us. Thank you very much. We're waiting on Ruben. He's supposed to be here. I'm not sure what happened. He might have fallen into like a temporal vortex or something like that. And also, Fathery may make a cameo or an appearance at some point from a lunch that he's having. So who knows? Anyone can pop in. Starfleet Boy, it's that kind of ship. So we'll see what happens. How are you guys today? And look at that, we've got a nice full audience already.
Yeah, comments popping through.
Yep. Actually, we will talk. Captain RGD has a good one, which we'll talk about a little later. I actually put that down in my notes as well. So we'll get back to that one. And hello, Cake. Welcome. Oh my gosh, you stayed up super late last night and you're here again. I love it. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And yes, I just saw your comment on Twitter, Captain Dunsel. Poor Captain Dunsel.
There was a very active conversation going on Twitter about this episode.
That was very active. Cool. I really enjoyed that. Thanks to everyone who participated in that. Stress Free K, what's up? Hi, Cake. I'm just now finishing this thrilling episode. And hello, everybody from Immortal Technique. Hello. And I think, what's this? Who is this person? Who is this today?
Enterprise IT guy.
Oh, nice. How's it going, everybody? I know why you're the Enterprise IT guy.
I take a little break. I come back. They installed some crazy fucking shit in my system. No one talks to me. I tell them the M5's crazy. Whatever, bro. Whatever. I get my check. I go home.
It was a. I have an answer for that. It was a younger and more naive time, more trusting time. They learned nothing from Control because Discovery was classified, so they had no idea that any of that stuff went on with Control, so that's why they didn't learn their lessons. Yeah, actually, Cake, the stream did go off and blink. I saw that as well, so I'm not sure what happens, but YouTube's been having issues. I think too many people are streaming, which is fine, I guess. Yay, Captain Killy is in the audience. She's not here today. She's getting her rest in for a marathon tomorrow, which we're excited about. I'm rooting for her. So she'll be in the chat, so I'm happy to see you there as well. And, good. Captain Dunsel said that the stream didn't blip for her. Oh, well, it must be some streams and not all. But anyways, let's get down to brass tacks and talk about this episode. Sub-Commander Tall has done an amazing job at episode summaries, but I'm going to assign this one to...
Please. Someone else, yes.
I'm going to assign this one to our Dadmiral. Let's hear it from the Dadmiral.
Dadmiral. Right, we join the Enterprise. And
I love that you guys indulge me, by the way, and let me assign summaries. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Right, the Enterprise is summoned to a starship with orders, to which Kirk is perplexed because he doesn't know what's actually going on. We arrive, and the Commodore is already beamed onto the Enterprise and tells Kirk and Spock in the transport room that the crew will be transported onto the space station, and a new top-of-the-range computer by Dr. Richard Daystrom is going to be installed, and it's going to be war games, and the Enterprise is going to be the fox in the hunt, as it was said. After that, after a few things, the M-5, which is the new computer by Daystrom. Obviously, Daystrom is the guy that invented the Duotronics that all of Starfleet is using, is installed, and the adventure begins. It's Kirk is not happy as he says to McCoy, he said, "I've got a red alert just back here. It's wrong. I don't know why." But he goes along with it. And the M5 is brought into service. It does a few, starts doing the exercises as it should be. And then all hell breaks loose. They can't get control back of the Enterprise from the M5.
It destroyed that core.
I warned Kirk. I showed him what happened between Windows 7 and Windows 8, and he didn't want to hear me out.
Hey, Starfleet doesn't run on Windows, I'll have you know. They run on Mac.
I showed him the history of the 20th century, what happened between Windows 7 and 8. And I said, this could happen again.
Maybe the JJ verse.
That one's Windows. Windows 2000 for sure. But no, I guess maybe the JJ verse does run on Mac. It's more Mac.
I feel like TNG looks kind of Windows though.
Oh my gosh, we'll have to do a special on LCARs and real life operating systems. I like that topic. But yeah, the Enterprise ends up destroying that cute little ship from the animated series, the Woden.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because I just before we started, I watched the original special effects, and it was the Botany Bay.
Right. It was the same. Yeah, it was the same ship.
They used the Botany Bay.
Right.
So it's actually they've made there's a lot of special effect changes in this episode. So yeah,
I imagine the squadron is not as impressive, and the space battles. I mean, for the time they probably were, because I do remember being excited as a kid. But I think the remaster did a great job at making.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, primarily all you tend to see is the Enterprise firing phasers or firing photon torpedoes.
Well, and like you said. Sorry, finish your thought. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, as you said, Sohail, it was a direct reference to an animated series episode where there was an ore freighter. So when the remastering team decided to change that effect, they paid homage to that. So I thought that was a cool idea.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, so they did lots of changes. I said I think the only time you actually see you see the three ships. Basically, it's like they've cut and paste type thing. You've got one there, and one there, sort of in that bit. When there's when one of the ships
hit Control T and kind of make one of those technologies.
That's it. Yeah, it's all square and everything else. So yeah, it's bear in mind that obviously when the digitally remastered it really does bring it up. I mean, when the M5 connects itself directly into the warp engines, that bit's changed as well. So there are quite a few changes this time. So yeah. Do you want me to carry on with the?
Yes.
We're almost doing good. You're doing good.
You're doing so good.
Obviously, the oil freighter is destroyed. They then decide that they want to disconnect the M5. They try to disconnect. It connects back into the warp drive, killing one of the engineers.
That was
when
that was a freaky scene. And then he's just like, "Well, you just got in the way." I was like, "Oh my gosh, Daystrom."
to which Kirk replies, "When are we all going to get in the way?"
Get in the way,
That's
exactly.
right.
Yeah. So there is that, and then we had this on Twitter. There was a few people saying, "Was it unlimited power?" But Scotty did say virtually unlimited power. That was actually in there because it was quite funny. It was all coming up, and I was just saying, "Oh, I'm just coming up to that scene now," and I listened intently.
I loved how that worked out, and we got the correct answer. It's also interesting that Netflix does have the wrong subtitles, and I think it's because they use the M5 to do their subtitles.
I like that comment. Yeah, I mean, only we could get so into what is this adverb they're using here? Virtually, practically. What was that? Factually was the one Captain Dunstan.
Hulu was fine. It was just Netflix.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they obviously Kirk and Scotty attempt to disconnect the M5. But it's rerouted the commands, and they think they've done it, but they haven't. And then we have the games are going to start, where you've got the Lexington, the Potemkin. All the ships come in there. They think it's
The
just a
Hood and
war
the
games. The
Excalibur.
M5, yeah, the M5 thinks it's for real. Daystrom
In a
flips out.
deleted scene, there's a Ferengi ship just off the.
Yeah,
They're
Daystrom
fighting
completely
each other.
flips
We can
out,
scavenge
and
them.
Spock has to give him the Vulcan neck pinch.
Oh my
After
gosh,
that one,
that's
Kirk again talks down another computer. He's amazing at talking down computers.
He's the
and don't
computer
destroy
whisperer.
themselves.
I
He is the
think, I think there should
whisperer.
be a comic series called Captain Kirk Computer Killer.
Yeah. They go back. They start getting control of the ship. Scotty says we can have shields. Kirk says no, don't want shields. I want communications. That's going to take longer. He said cut the shields. Cut the shields. We're not going to do that. And then the Commodore realizes that they are dead in the water and doesn't attack because obviously Starfleet have said you can destroy the Enterprise during that bit. And then we go to the scene where they start talking and it's a little bit lighthearted, and that's the end of the episode.
Very nice. And it was the first time I can remember them starting one of their banters in the turbolift. I could be wrong about that, but that was pretty cool to see that. Like,
Really loud
Well, they do
turbos.
have that. I think doesn't it start with that bit, or was that on the bridge in the piece of the action? Did that start on the bridge and
oh,
come
maybe,
through?
maybe. But I'm just saying at the
Start
end
through,
with the little banter at the end. But maybe you're right.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Ruben? I mean, sorry.
I feel like it's Dickie. But
Dickie-
okay,
Dickie-
Ruben's
Dickie
not-
Dickie
Daystrom,
Daystrom.
Enterprise IT guy, cousin of Richard Daystrom. I
Dickie
see.
Daystrom, no relation.
Kind of
What
like
were you
Roy
saying?
Orbison over there.
It's true.
Yeah.
There's a bit
It's
of
really
that
hard to
going
see
on.
through these sunglasses.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, there's a lot of nice comments about you in the comment thread. So
oh, I was just saying that for some reason, I don't know if the turbo lift is always so loud, but it really stood out to me in this episode. I was like, turbo lift is really loud. Like it's like
it just depends how fast it's going. Let's go to the comments for a second before we get started because there's quite a few, and I think we should share. Let's see here. If only I knew when Sub Commander Tall was going to do the summary, I wouldn't have to watch the episode at all. He does really good summaries. It's true.
They're really long, is what they're not even a summary, really. They take 48 minutes, so that's why. Yeah,
That's what happens when I do them, by the way. So we're kindred in that. It's like
Yeah.
if my summaries last the whole episode.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out to TOS Saturday Night, which is a Twitter watch along group. Captain Dunsel here, which by the way, great name, as usual, was just shouting them out as well, and they're pretty cool. So they started on the West Coast at 9 p.m. Pacific, so that's usually around midnight, and it's just a lot of fun. You just press play when they let you know and just join in the conversation, and it's a lot of fun, and do the hashtag, and Sub Commander Tall sometimes is there. He decloaks.
Yeah, highly recommended. It's
Yeah.
a good group. It's a good group. I mean, there's a number of such groups around, but this is one of the more fun ones. So they're all good, but this one's especially good.
Is Ruben actually there, or is it just a picture of him? Yeah, you were so still at one point that I was wondering the same thing. Chris Collins, yay! What's up, Chris? I love the HD version of this episode showing how significant the battle is versus just seeing copies of the Enterprise on screen. Yeah, it's pretty cool update. That battle was pretty awesome, I have to say. Like, and I love all the kind of talk about like changing course and this and that, mark this, and I don't know what any of it means, but it's very naval and submarine type of.
They didn't know
stuff,
what it
so.
meant either.
They didn't either. Yeah, none of
It sounded good though.
None of the coordinates actually. If you were to actually map it out and do like the battle, it probably doesn't make any sense. Daystrom had a secret dream of crushing mighty starships. Too bad that wasn't on his resume. I know he does say that. It's true.
That's a great moment. I mean, and you do because obviously it comes up that he's so tall. This guy, William Marshall, is his name, but he's fairly physically restrained for most of the episode. But there at the very end when he grabs Kirk by the shoulders and you're a mighty star, that's like, whoa, this guy he's a big deal. So yeah, I like that.
Ruben has more hair pieces than me and me. It's crazy. Actually, I might need that one, Ruben. It's pretty short, and I like a
I
short
just have it on all kind of messed
wig.
up.
Yeah,
This is actually technically a Spock wig.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's gotten so disheveled over the years. It doesn't look like a Spock wing anymore.
Chris says, does it seem unusual that the M5 computer zapped a red shirt and needed more power when so much of the Enterprise was already shut down due to reduced crew? Yeah, it does, because it's a crazy, insane computer, and so it probably is a little malevolent, I would say. I don't know. What do you guys think?
You gotta kill
Yeah,
a
I
red
think.
shirt,
Yeah, I
man.
mean, it was. I mean, he's at the end of the day, we find out later in the episode they've put it's Daystrom's memory engrams on
That's
on
right.
the computer. So yeah, he's pretty screwed up in itself. I mean, he's resentful. He covers it up, but he's resentful of all his colleagues because they've become famous on his back. They all take the Mickey out of him when he's the young.
Wonder Boy.
The young
Boy
Wonder
Wonder.
Boy,
Boy Wonder,
the Boy
yeah.
Wonder, and everything else. So he's got all this resentment, and it's screwing with his brain. And obviously, if you take that and put it on a computer, that computer's going to be pretty screwed up in the first place. So yeah, you can see why it would do that, and I think because it thinks it's more human, it's starting to act like human and draw more power. So that's
Like
probably why.
Yeah.
But like we do
Collins,
when we're running, if we're walking, we're fine. If we run, we start drawing more energy from our bodies and exercise and all that stuff. So
Gotcha.
I think it was
It has
probably
to
thinking
think
itself
more,
more of a
yeah.
body. Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Very
it raises the stakes by killing a crewman and making everything seem more tense. So it serves a dramatic function. It probably doesn't make a ton of sense, but yeah, I mean, I think they're also just trying to show that this computer is qualitatively different from other computers that have come before. It's the idea that does need more power to, as you said, run instead of walk. That surprised Spock in the episode, as I recall. So yeah, I think they're establishing that it's a different kind of computer, and they're also killing a red shirt to make everyone get tense. So,
but
he comes back. He comes back in another episode, not as Mr. Harper, but he comes back that guy, as
That's
Lieutenant
awesome.
O'Neill.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Since Ian, since you watched the original effects, and I know Ruben's seen them, and I'm sure Subcommanders as well. Was that like energy transfer beam like similar in the original effects, or did it look different?
You actually, I mean, in the original one, you saw a beam, and then you see the squirrely lines in the middle.
Yeah, like a
interesting.
DNA helix almost.
Oh,
Like
really?
DNA
Oh,
helix
okay.
type thing. So you see that, and they do change it. It's a more of a brighter, and it's
Yeah, this one seems a little bit more
the beam.
fluidy.
But it's
Yeah.
a pretty good effect for the
Just a
day. I
little
thought it
bit.
was
the
the original ones. Yeah,
I don't think I think that's the one bit in all of that they didn't really need to change.
yeah. I
but
agree.
they did. But yeah, it was a very good effect.
They just
in
gave
the
it a
day.
little bit more kind of like a little bit more wiggle,
But-
like
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
little
more
bit,
of a
just to give it more of a.
It
fluid
looked like
energy transfer.
a thick
Yeah.
lightsaber in the remaster. To me, it was like interesting. Captain Dunsel is certain that there was banter in the turbolift at the end scenes before. So yeah, I don't know why this one stood out to me as if it was the first time. Hey Jace, what's up? Welcome. You didn't miss too much, just the episode summary and a little bit of jokes from our IT guy here on the Enterprise. He's upset that the M5 was allowed to be installed with no off switch, as Dr. McCoy. Wonderful machine. It has no off switch, I think is what he says, or something like that. What exactly is a memory engram? That's a really good question. It comes up
Somebody
a lot.
answered that later on.
Oh, they
Stress-free
do.
answered that.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see.
According to
synapses
Google,
of the brain.
engram cells
Ah.
are a population of neurons that are activated by learning.
Very nice. Yes, and memory engrams keep coming up in Star Trek. Data talks a lot about his engrams, and we hear about other people trying to transfer their engrams onto a artificial brain. And Jean-Luc Picard is the first, as far as I know, successful transfer from a human to a machine using memory engrams with no
I thought it was
or anything like that.
I thought it was a breakfast cereal. You have those engrams that are like golden grams and
Excuse me,
engrams.
sir. Ira Graves successfully transferred himself into Data and then later into the Enterprise computer, which was never brought up again. And in my theory, he created Moriarty.
Oh, interesting.
Okay,
In my
That's
okay.
head canon, somehow.
Would you
that makes
call the
sense.
Ira Graves transfer successful?
Yeah, I mean, he
But
did take over
Yeah,
Data. He could have kept going.
I
He
guess.
was
He
just a
did
little.
He did it.
Interesting. I love that.
And then you could blame every ship anomaly with the computer after that episode on him because he's in there, bro. He's in there.
It's
It never comes up again.
Scary. That is scary. I don't know. I love the actor who played Daystrom. Does anyone remember what other shows that actor was in besides this show? Well, his name is William Marshall. He is awesome. He was in Pee-wee's Playhouse. I forgot about that. He was Blackula, which was a huge deal in the 60s or 70s. The 70s. I guess.
Blaxploitation horror film.
Which, by the way, Nichelle Nichols is in a bunch of blaxploitation films too. So
a couple. No, I wouldn't say a bunch.
No, yeah,
but she's
sorry,
in-
a couple.
yeah.
She's in a couple.
It was good money.
But yeah.
He was
he
also on
did-
Amazon Women on the Moon. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but it's like a really raunchy comedy.
No,
He's like one of those actors who's actually a really good actor and Shakespearean guy, like Peter Cushing, but he's also in these terrible kind of horror flicks.
That's a
like
great
Othello.
Don't you knock the Hammer horrors? They are a British
Well, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
You take the gigs that pay the best.
Yeah. But I think his Othello was very highly acclaimed. There was some performance of Othello that he was.
I mean, he has such a commanding and wonderful presence, and that voice is just like epic. Yeah, it's true.
Very rich voice he had. Yeah,
it's
and
very.
I'll never
cool.
forget renting Blackula when I was like 13.
I think I
And
might
the cover, it was just like him, like. I was just like, what is this?
And so if you notice in this episode at 6'5", William Shatner was always asking for the scenes to be set up where Daystrom is kind of bending over or crouched underneath something, so you cannot really tell. I mean, he's always bent over or something in this episode. Yeah. So Kirk doesn't look too small, like a hobbit.
He was he's been in so much stuff. Sadly, he did pass away in 2003 at the age of 78. But he was born in Gary, Indiana, just for anyone out there who's from Indiana. So he's an Indiana boy.
Isn't that where Michael Jackson's from?
What? Indiana? Not from Gary.
What? From Gary, Indiana?
Are you serious? I didn't know that. That's crazy. Oh, it's interesting.
Maybe I'm wrong about that, but now I gotta look it up.
Let's see here. I think it's funny how Daystrom gets mentioned or referenced way more in other Star Trek series than the character actually appeared. So let's go back to Captain RGD's, since we're on the subject of
Michael Joseph
Daystrom.
Jackson was born in Gary, Indiana.
Gary, Indiana. Wow. Lots of interesting place, Gary, if it's spawning all these talents. It's cool.
I'll reward myself for that.
Earlier, Captain RGD asked, how can Starfleet still honor Daystrom despite what happened in this episode? Blue, shout out to Blue. That's a good question. I think it's because he did more good and maybe atoned for his mistake. I think so too. I don't know beyond what's on screen, so maybe there's like more. Maybe they fleshed out Daystrom more in the novels and stuff like that. But Kirk does list off like a big list of his accomplishments. So I imagine that they were able to realize that maybe he lost his mind or had a mental break and helped him, as is the way of the Federation, and maybe they helped him rehabilitate, and he went on to do even more good things. But
well, you think all of Starfleet, I mean, they say that, but the whole of Starfleet in itself was working on his invention.
Yeah,
the Duotronics. So everything that ran on his bit, yes, he was trying to recapture what he'd done, because he's obviously they said he got the Nobel Prize and a few other, accolades.
Yeah.
So he had got that. So, but you think you've got an entire fleet for many, many years until they brought in isolinear chips, that the whole of Starfleet for as many years was run on his invention. So he was a trailblazer, even though the M-5 was there, but he was still a trailblazer.
We also now know that the Daystrom Institute resides in Okinawa in Japan. We've seen it on screen finally, and it turns out that another scientist from the Daystrom Institute is unstable as well, which is Agnes Girardi. So maybe
It's hard to make an episode about a stable scientist. Those are pretty boring.
There's lots of great stable scientists out there. Shout out to Aaron McDonald, who's one of the who contributes on Star Trek. But yeah, you're right. It's true. The mad scientist trope is too appealing. I think it's easy to put it into your show.
Yeah, but I guess you can still honor someone for their initial accomplishments, even if they had a breakdown. It's got a little bit like the Garth of later on when we meet Garth of Izar, and his military stuff is still required reading, even though he was a madman in that asylum there. So
I'm kind of curious how many times Kirk or whatever someone saves the day by using sort of this wonky reverse logic. Like, well, murder's wrong, and you're murdering, so if murder's wrong, you got to murder yourselves. Murder.
Yeah, it's actually, it's sort of like
you've
straightforward.
Murdered somebody, kill yourself.
The thing is, it's always the exact same argument. It's always the same. You didn't fulfill your main function, so what do you do? The things that you didn't sterilize these things, so now you got to sterilize yourself. You committed murder, now you got to murder yourself. It's always you didn't fulfill your prime directive. I remember David Gerald writing in the book that, well, what if someone used that argument on Kirk? You didn't fulfill your prime directive, Captain Kirk. You should kill yourself. But yeah, it's always the same argument, but it's still it's fun. It's fun.
It is fun. Of course, they can't do that anymore. When was the last time we saw someone like outfox a computer like that? It's only like TOS and the motion picture, if I recall. I can't think of an instance in TNG where they've done it that way, like where it's just like using logic, its own logic or whatever. Because
no one really knew what a computer was really then too. So it's. I mean, I think now
what it was going to ultimately be capable of too. Because,
I mean, they even saying that they keep calling it mechanization. They didn't call it computing power. It was all mechanization. So I don't think they really knew. For them, computers were still rooms big. They were such huge things.
And it's interesting at the time how people feared like machines and computers taking their jobs, even in this like very advanced society. They're still like afraid of it, even though they're surrounded by computers and machines and things like that. So I think
we're all sorry for the other guy when he loses his job to a computer, but when it comes to your job, that's different, and it always will.
I was literally going to mention that is actually a great line, and you can sit there. Obviously, there were lots of people in the 60s and 70s and 80s, even going into the 80s, that felt that way. When you started getting robots seen in like car manufacturing and all those type of things, and people were losing, these welders and all were losing their jobs. They probably felt that way.
Well, that theme of automation is great. It's a shame they don't really talk about it after about 5 minutes into the episode, but it's super relevant today still.
Oh yeah, well, especially artificial intelligence it's kind of it's shifted from like computers or machines to like actual artificial intelligence, which is something that like there's a lot of debate and discussion about, and how it's going to play into humanity's future. So far, it's been like, what do you get these robocalls like? Or when you chat with like a support person, sometimes it's like a computer that's chatting back to you instead of an actual person.
There's a software called Benjamin that's been writing screenplays for years now. Not produced feature films, but it's been writing short films and getting better and better slowly but surely. And then studios like Warner Brothers, I don't know what Disney does, but Warner Brothers recently purchased an AI software that predicts the profitability of a movie based on its script.
Crazy.
And so it can predict how much money a movie will make with 90% accuracy just by inputting the script into the software.
We need Captain Kirk more than ever to destroy that.
That's
AI.
right.
It's scary
wild.
Stuff.
Yeah.
It's scary stuff to me. Captain Killy says, so James Doohan was the voice of M-5. Was that noticeable to everyone? Yes, it was noticeable. And I thought it was hilarious that he did it, but also great. He does a lot of voiceover stuff.
Wasn't he the voiceover when they were saying when obviously the Starbase was contacting he was that voice as
Yeah.
well.
He seems to
Commodore
be the
Enright.
go-to. Like, hey James, we
Yeah.
need a voice for this episode.
Yeah, he sort of thought of himself as the man of 1,000 voices, but he pretty much, you can always tell it's him when he's talking. I think there's even a fourth voice he does at the end when Starfleet is calling Wesley and they intercept that message and say, "You have all authority to destroy Enterprise," or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's him there too. But
Even Data has
He
an
did a lot of
switch.
he did a lot of voices as well on the animated series as well.
yes,
didn't he?
yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Robbie's having dinner. He's there, I promise. He'll come back soon, I'm sure. Let's see here. Oh, and then so even Data has an off switch, which is true, but Data kept his back switch secret. Only Geordi got to know where it was, and Dr. Crusher.
knew.
Yeah, Dr. Crusher knew as well.
But no, if you remember, Riker knew about it as well.
Riker knew, yeah. Riker
Oh,
Riker
okay.
knew.
That's right. Everyone
Yeah,
knew about it
Pinocchio.
eventually.
It's the thing.
Cutting
Pinocchio
his
string to
strings.
cut.
Yeah, it's true. Marshall is like Patrick Stewart. I'd listen to them reading the phone book. Yeah, I agree. Beautiful. Daystrom was a pretty big, well-known before the M5, based on what Spock and Kirk said. Not sure if he was better known for what he did after this event or accomplishments. Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I think you probably find that they sort of brushed it under the carpet a little bit.
Right. Like it kind of got like, yeah, he did that, but he also did all this other stuff, and the other stuff kind of overwhelmed.
Yeah, could you imagine it? Do you care to comment on all the people you've murdered?
If he was more compassionate about it, I think I would have forgiven him a little easier. But again, he is
Or just
mentally...
big ass button that says "turn the shit off."
There should always be a big red button. Welcome back, Robbie.
Hi.
Robbie, since
Well,
you were
actually,
away...
they did.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ian.
They did
I was
have
going to
an
say
offswitch.
they did have a switch to start off with, because it always made me laugh. That he says, "Oh, M5 disengaged," and then he flicks it again, and then he says M5 engaged on the third switch. So he's basically he's engaged it, disengaged it, engaged it, disengaged it, but he's saying he's engaged it. And then just sit and watch him. He just keeps flicking the switch. No wonder M5 goes, "Enough."
It's like an elevator button. If I keep pushing it, it's going to come. It'll turn off.
Robbie, since you were away, give us a quick a summary of your thoughts on this episode.
It kind of reminded me of that Enterprise episode with I can't remember his name, but he's the guy who was trying to advance the transporter to.
Oh yeah, what was that episode?
And he couldn't really get over the fact that this wasn't working. Just kind of like Daystrom.
Emery Erickson, I think.
Emery Erickson, that's the one.
That's right.
I remember this one actually. I don't remember a lot of TOS ones because I've only usually watched them once. But this one I've watched a couple of times actually because I'm a fan of it. I thought it would have been interesting to see. Of course, you can't have it. You can't really do it the other way. For the kind of message you're telling, but it would have been interesting if the M5 worked perfectly and you still had the message that machines shouldn't take over man, but maybe Kirk and Spock or the crew felt isolated due to it or useless, just like they did in this episode, and they maybe tried to petition or maybe it was kind of overruled that this was a bad idea, but I think it was done very well. I hope we don't see any M6 in Strange New Worlds.
Well, it wouldn't be. It would be the M4, I guess, or the M3, because it's gonna be a prequel. But yeah, I hope we don't. I do hope we see the ships, the Exeter, the Hood, the Excalibur, or the Potemkin again.
You could see a non-crazy Daystrom too.
Yeah, and you could see before he went mad
before
Daystrom.
he went kind of.
Yeah, it's really cool. I would hope they
Maybe even. Oh, I don't even know why I'm saying this because I'm 84. Whatever. No.
Wait, what? Say it. Say it.
No.
You're so defeated right now. That's so weird. Like, that's so unusual for you.
This is like my comment of the week where I'm like, I hope Strange New Worlds does this.
It's
They can do this. They can do that.
Ruben
No,
is
do it.
Ruben is the most excited / least excited person for Strange New Worlds. He's like both states at once. I've never met anyone like that. It's so funny. I hope they cast a very tall actor if he does come back. I would love to see Daystrom.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Cool. Ooh.
Shaquille. Yeah, I'm Richard Daystrom. How's it going, everybody?
Oh,
I
poor
thought-
Jack. Go ahead, Robbie.
I thought Spock and, well, specifically McCoy and Kirk had some fantastic interactions in this one.
Yeah.
I got some good quotes from Kirk and McCoy, and I just think it's a very prescient episode because in 2021 we have technology has improved a lot, and we're seeing a lot of people being unemployed due to machinery. You know, jobs that used to be really prominent aren't even a thing anymore, and it's. I think you still need to have machinery, but there is a point where you have to draw the line. So it's very interesting to rewatch this and consider the present day. I think it's funny when Spock says that a computer, it'd be funny or it would be interesting to see if a computer worked under McCoy's personality because all of that logic would not function properly.
That was really great.
I think you also find that Kirk and Picard, they have that thing in common. Obviously, you know, all I ask is for, you know,
Tall ship and a
tall ship and start to steer by.
by.
So, I mean, because obviously you see that in Generations. Yeah, it is Generations when they're on the HMS Enterprise, and there's, you know, we're with that. So is it Generations?
Yeah, Generations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Generations. Yeah, so you see that ship, and you know they're saying about, you know, the swell of the ocean, and you could feel the ship moving.
It reminded me of
Both think
this. That reminded me of
that
this
love.
scene where he's with McCoy and talking about that, like about the old days of sailing and stuff like that. And I loved how vulnerable Kirk was throughout this whole episode. Like, to me, that was like one of the best things about it, how he just kept like, it was weird to see Kirk this vulnerable, but I loved it. I thought it was, and it's cool because you see it again later on. You know, you see more of that in him as he ages in the films, you know, especially with his dilemmas in Star Trek, from the motion picture, you know, just like having to face Decker, who's like, you don't even know the ship, like, you know, like all these things, like in Star Trek 2, feeling like old and like
Old.
you know, like, you know, having had a, you know, like being an admiral and not being in the action anymore. And it's just very cool to see all that kind of come
Yeah,
out.
he gets
and-
humiliated in front of the whole crew. Basically.
Yeah. You know, I
oh,
totally
the
agree
Captain
with that.
Dunstall scene. Yeah, it was like, yeah.
I mean, he usually
that was a really bad bit.
he usually in the original series, you know, Kirk will find a sort of a moral point of view and then kind of push that point of view through the episode. I mean, he's kind of convinced of himself, usually rightly. But in this one, yeah, I thought he, as you said, he's a lot more vulnerable. He, you know, he's pushing back against this machine, but he doesn't entirely know why. And he's open to the idea of, am I being petty here? Or, you know, this thing could be practical. And it's interesting to see him conflicted in that way. It's not something you see in him a lot, especially not at this point in the series.
It-
He hasn't-
it's-
I
Go
think,
ahead, sorry.
Right, sorry, I was going to say, I think Shatner plays that vulnerability just right. With
Yeah.
it. He's
Yeah.
with it there. You know, you can see he's vulnerable. He's there with McCoy. You know, when they've got the drink, and obviously a few times in the corridors. I think this is one of Shatner's better episodes as well.
Really, really powerful stuff. What were you gonna say, Robbie?
I think I like that he questions himself. He's not just completely. He is very much against a machine operating everything, but he's like, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, "Am I too afraid to let go of the prestige and the power of being a starship captain?"
Yeah, I like that.
And then I love when Spock said, yeah, and Kirk said there are other jobs I could do. So he isn't, Kirk isn't completely
And
focused on being a captain. He would
yeah,
take
he's like
another
looking at
opportunity if he had to.
he's trying to find the silver lining. And I think also in that scene, one of the things I liked about that is that McCoy tells him, well, if you have the wherewithal or the presence of mind to ask those questions, then you're not,
You
then
don't
you're
need me
not,
to answer them
yeah,
for
you don't
you.
need to.
Yeah.
I love that. I actually loved all the scenes where McCoy's just like continually reminding him like, no, there's only one Captain Kirk. Like, like he's like he's a good like encourager in it. And I love, to me, it like, I'm not gonna say this is like a Spurk thing, but to me, the scene where sorry, Captain Dunsel in the audience, I know you hate it when I go here, but to me, that scene was so touching and heartfelt when Spock's like, I think machines serve their purpose, etc. But I would never, I forget. How it
Starship
goes.
also runs on loyalty.
Yes,
The
and
one
loyalty.
man, and nothing can replace him.
And
Yeah.
it's such a touching scene. And then also just it's heartbreaking when what's his face, Commodore Wesley. Yeah, Wesley. He's like Captain Dunsel, and McCoy has no idea what that means, and he keeps asking, and he's
Yeah,
like, "What does that mean?" And like Kirk, he's so embarrassed, as you said, and he walks off, and then Spock has to like say what it is, and it was just
it's good writing. It's
great
good writing.
writing. Yeah,
That's all. I mean, this was not DC Fontana's story. It was a spec
Lawrence
script.
Wolfe, yeah.
Yeah, who is a mathematician. The only reason he got I read this morning, I don't have this in my memory banks, but the only reason he got the script viewed was because he was friendly with Ray Bradbury, and Ray Bradbury passed it to Roddenberry. And but I think it was more just kind of focused on the computer turning into a monster, sort of, predating HAL. I mean, some originality there, but I think when DC Fontana revised it and actually made the script, you had all these human elements that we're talking about, and these relationship elements that are just so good in this episode.
Totally.
I think it's quite a nice twist that McCoy's like, oh, Spock would love all these blinking lights, and then eventually Spock just twists it on its head and says practical perhaps, but not desirable. And he really does give a very warm speech to Kirk, which I don't think we really see until maybe the films, where he's a bit more emotionally vulnerable.
Well, yeah, I think the only time you ever see it, that emotion or whatever is a mock time, because he thinks Kirk's dead. And you see that elation that Kirk's alive.
I thought there was some echoes in Star Trek 2 when they're in Spock's quarters and he says, "Commanding a starship is your first best destiny." And it's, I think it kind of, it sort of echoes that sense of, okay, machines are great, they're interesting, we should use them, but this is ultimately kind of a human, or at least an organic endeavor that we're doing here to reach for the stars or whatever it is.
I think a few people cite this episode as an example of why you never see robotics like you do in Star Wars, in Star Trek, until until very recently. I think Discovery. I think Discovery might have the exocomps kind of count, but Discovery was one of the first shows to introduce just background robots, like doing tasks and fixing the ship and things like that. Up until then, you always saw humans working on it, and so I wonder, it's pretty cool now. I hadn't thought about this before, but that's a big complaint about Discovery, is like the .7 robots and like all the robotics. But it makes sense that the Federation might have been actually like ramping up on robotics until this happened, until this incident, and maybe that this is the incident that caused them to like abandon some of those projects, and maybe even like say like, what, for the next 100 years we're gonna like cool it on some of these like things, and let's retire those .7s, even though they were pretty handy and stuff like that. So I do think it's cool whenever I love like seeing these little moments that could explain something that's incongruous with another version of Trek. What do you guys think?
Maybe even Peanut Hamper reinforced it.
Yes, I would say Peanut Hamper. For those of you who don't watch Lower Decks, Peanut Hamper is a crazy exocomp. That's a good reference. Yeah, I would agree.
I think you bring a good point. I think you probably is. You could actually hark it back to this episode why you don't see the robots, and maybe they stop doing it, and they are worried a bit with that. Because obviously when Dr. Sung was creating Data, he was pretty much doing it in hiding.
Right. There's like a weird apprehension
Good point.
kind of. Yeah, that's true.
So he did all that in hiding. Yes, you had that colony that knew them, and then Law, but then he was too human, so he got rid of the contractions and changed the color, and everything with that. So I think there you probably find
hiding it would be more in secret. Like he just didn't want to work alone, because Maddox was doing the same thing. He was just not. Well,
but Maddox was doing that after Data was obviously in Starfleet, wasn't he? Data was already, because Maddox considerably younger, so Maddox was looking at robotics, obviously, and androids and everything else. Then Data comes on the scene, and he's wanting to, because obviously Measure of a Man, he's wanting to take Data apart and find out how he works.
It's wild that they became friends, and then later what happens to Maddox in Star Trek Picard. We'll go too deep into it, but yeah, it's wild how all these like threads are kind of like flowing, these other stories are flowing through the fabric of Star Trek. It's very cool.
Well, when you've got 55 years of Star Trek, you're going to get that, with, as you said, with like 10 series of Star Trek, you're going to have a vast tapestry of stories.
Nice. We're just like doing it today. We're on fire. It's awesome. I had an enormous crush on Giotto, the painter, or the Renaissance artist.
The guy in
he was the head of security in Devil in the Dark. And it's the same actor who played Commodore Wesley.
Gotcha. Okay.
Barry Russo. Yeah.
Barely noticed the Commodore. I have no idea why. Okay, gotcha. I was like, whoa, Giotto, the Renaissance artist.
She may like him too.
There was a scene in the animated series where Spock and Kirk talk about friendship. Yep. Which Aaron Harvey, shout out to Aaron Harvey, did a cool version of them having a drink at the bar from Lower Decks, which was very cool, and it's taken from that episode. I think it might have been the Harry Mudd one. Yeah, I believe it is where they're somehow they're like intoxicated or something like that happens. But I'm excited to revisit the animated series, which is coming so soon. I can't believe it. We're almost we're nearly done with season 2, and we're almost on to season 3 of the original series.
I think Jill was saying that the Harry Mudd episode might have also informed the no robotics idea.
Oh yeah, for sure. But also, I think that episode about where Spock and Kirk talk about friendship is the other Mudd episode. What is that one called in the animated series?
Oh, Mudd's Passion.
Mudd's Passion. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All the Mudds. But yeah, you're right. Harry did some crazy stuff with androids too. Is this the last episode in the original series where a robot trying to take over the universe until we get V'ger? I can't think of any more robots besides machine used for
I think that's right. I think say what you will about season 3 is they did go away from that. They didn't keep going back to that well. I mean, in part it was a Gene Coon thing, not exclusively, but yeah, no, I don't think in season 3 Kirk talks any computer down the same way they don't have any more parallel planets in season 3. Really, that I can, sort of the in Paradise Syndrome, but yeah, I think this is really
we have one next week.
Yes, in season 2 still. Yes, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to that one immensely. Yeah.
It's, what is it, Bread and Circuses, right? And then that's our finale.
And then Assignment Earth. So we've only got 2 more episodes left.
Oh, Assignment Earth is this season 2. Okay, that's right. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Oh man. We're getting there. I love it. I love this journey. Thank you guys. Any final thoughts and ratings on this episode? I'll say I'm gonna give this episode a 9. It's a really solid episode. I really loved it. The acting is superb. Kirk's vulnerability, Everything about just we didn't talk much about it, but the ship battles were just exciting. I would imagine they are even without the newfangled remastered effects, just because of the way the action is played out and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a very good episode. I am glad I got to watch it again, and I had a lot of fun watching it. I have fun watching it every time I see it, so it's a great episode.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I personally would give it a 9 as well. I think it's one of the best ones in season 2. I mean, there's a lot of good ones, but it's near the end. I think the pacing. I think they keep the storyline constant all the way through this episode. Whereas we found in other ones where they bring something in, you think you could really get some good drama about it, but it tends to go about 5 minutes later. I think with this one, they kept the thread all the way through from beginning to end on this one, for me anyway. And obviously the pacing, because the time goes by just like that, and it answers a lot of things. You've got the drama, you've got the pew-pews for everybody that wants the pew-pews. You've got all that. So, a red shirt dies, unfortunately, but which is the mark. But yeah, I like it. It's, for me, I would say it's probably in the top 10 for TOS.
Yeah, I agree. What do you say, Dickie Daystrom? Despite the lack of computer security, other than that, what do you?
I warned everybody, man. I warned everybody. I said Mac OS. No one listened. I said Linux. No one listened. They went Windows 7.
Ruben, you were like an early adopter of like the Linux operating system and all that stuff. Going to a personal moment for a second, I do remember you were like you were into programming and stuff in high school. And
I'm a big fan of Linux. I do not currently have a Linux machine, unfortunately, but I do love
Dickie actually knows what he's talking about a little bit.
Once in a while.
I thought I'd better get in first today after last week. There's no way I was going to follow it.
Oh man. Yeah, this episode's good. It's one of the best episodes of the season. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got the pew pew, like I said. Now in this new version, it's got even more of that. These updated effects are pretty awesome. So yeah, I give it a full done so with a Daystrom meltdown.
Before we go to Ravi, Jill says I say 9.5. I only deduct for the banter at the end being a bit tone deaf given all the recent tragedy. Yeah, like there's been a couple times where I took a note of that. There's been a couple of times where the episode doesn't end with the banter and it's like a more somber ending. Do you guys think it should have been like that in this episode, or do you guys feel like the banter was all right?
Well, I still feel like they should be questioning, because like they're not going to stop. No one, just because M-5 failed, they're not going to stop researching M6 or whatever the next thing is called. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be a collective stop of everything. So they should still be addressing like the question at hand, like an M5 is coming. I would have preferred a more somber.
A somber ending.
Then, hey, 100 people on that ship died, but whatever, we're alive.
What were you going to say, Ian?
I think you find it's only combined to the three of them, though. Whereas normally, it's jovial for the cross the bridge. It is combined, but humans have an inherent, ability when everything has gone wrong to still find humour in a sad situation. So you could, you could have it somber, but you can also find that still within there that they will find humour. Because if we stay somber, what's the point in going on? We will still find humour in a way, so we can see the next day and things like that. So I think, yes, it could be somber, but I can also see why injecting a little bit of humour for somebody to have that. But as I said, it was only between the three of them in the first place, not the entire crew.
Yeah, I never. Oh, go ahead, Robbie.
I know this isn't how TOS usually works, but I think it could have been really interesting if maybe Kirk had a scene in his quarters at the very end with, I don't know, maybe McCoy or Spock, or both of them, and was just had a last line or a reflection on what happened. That could have been kind of powerful. But I think there's also something very optimistic with Star Trek and with TOS that has the smiling and that jovial laughing at the end that I love. But I think also if you have that all the time, it could be you could get used to it a bit. So it would be interesting to change it now and again. But I'm not saying
pick and choose your times when you do it.
Yeah.
They should have ended with Kirk in his room with a bunch of ghost heads appearing. Going, done so, done so, done so. And then, it's just like, what the fuck was that?
No.
I don't know. I never noticed
you're
it.
past your limit for F-bombs tonight. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just, I mean, I get all that about maybe it was not totally appropriate given the scale of the destruction, but I guess I never noticed it so much on this episode. The episode where I noticed it feeling incongruous is Galileo 7, because then it's like they really go into those belly laughs. I mean, they're like, Scotty's like tearing up and like, okay, beam up the crewmen's carcasses now, and it's like, but yeah, it didn't bother me on this. I mean, I like the cap, as you say, it can be overdone, the humorous capper, but so can a dramatic ending be overdone, and the fact that it happens so like that thing at the end of City on the Edge of Forever or in Private Little War, they stand out because they're so unusual. So I don't know. I don't mind their traditional little jokey ending.
Captain Dunsel / Jill also pointed out, and I think this is a great point, which is it probably worked better with the commercial break
right.
than it does like as a continuous thing, because it doesn't have like that moment for you to reflect, like for you to kind of like reflect and get over it. So
a little time would help. Yeah.
But I'm actually glad there's no commercials, because I'm so spoiled. I can't sit through commercials anymore. I have to have the non-advert version of everything. It's crazy.
I never watch episodes live anymore, because I'm always forward winding through commercials and advert. Well, we call them adverts, but yeah, I'm always there, and I'll forward wind to get to the next part.
Ratings and final thoughts, Robbie.
I think I'd give it a 9. It's not just, at least in my opinion, it's not just one of the best of season 2. It's probably one of the best of the whole show. I don't know if it would quite make my top 10, because there are just so many good season 1 episodes. But it's definitely high up there.
Sorry, I was still on mute. I try to mute because there's like noises happening that I don't know if you guys hear them or not. And Sub Commander, what do you say?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I always liked this episode. I've watched it a lot of times. I love all the dialogue. I mean, it's such a bottle show. There's no new sets. There's one guest star. Well, sort of 1.5 guest stars. It's probably really cheap to make. But it's such an effective episode, and it's just those scenes of Kirk and McCoy in the cabin, or the three of them walking down the hall and talking about computers generally. It makes it feel very, very real. I also like the scene where McCoy is kind of describing Daystrom's career, and the government bought it, and then Daystrom had to make it work, and it makes things feel very practical. So yeah, I guess I'll give it an 8 instead of a 9, only because of some of the themes being overused. But I enjoy this episode a lot. It's a really good one.
Excellent, very cool. What have you guys got to promote this week? Shall we start with? We'll save Dadmiral for last because we have a special thing to play.
Yeah.
So let's start with Sub Commander. What are you doing? That's anything you want to talk about?
I got nothing to promote. I just do my Twitter thing and try to find rare pictures and make funny captions for them, and that's about it.
I really miss your fleets where you would show like those clips and stuff like that. That was really cool. I wish there was a way. It's just funny, fleets filled such a niche, I thought, and like it's hard to kind of do that with a permanent tweet, right? Like there was something cool about fleets being fleeting. So I don't know, Twitter. I think it was a mistake that you like.
Yeah, I agree. Those were fun for me. But other than that, just
maybe you'll start a TikTok.
No, I would not believe me. We've had discussions about this with my teenage daughter, so it's like, no, I'm staying away from that stuff. So yeah, no, you carry on to the next person.
Probably for the best. Probably for the best.
Stories
But,
on Instagram. Have it stories on Instagram. They only last for 24 hours.
But audience,
Okay.
you can check out the Subcommander on Twitter at Subcommander Tall, and you can also check out his Leslie account, which is pretty cool.
At Mr. Leslie TOS.
Yeah, which is very cool. Ruben, what's going on at Ruben Dash Writes, and who have you interviewed lately?
Who have I interviewed lately? That was a good question.
Clearly, I put you out. Clearly, you weren't ready for that one.
Yeah, I interviewed. Okay, I already mentioned those guys before. I interviewed my interview that should be coming out next is with a cinematographer named Clayton Moore, who worked.
Clayton Moore. Clayton Moore, really? Oh, okay, that's the name of the original
Lone Ranger.
Lone Ranger. Yes, yeah, right.
Yeah. I made a joke about that during the interview.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a cinematographer. He worked on Superhost, which is a horror movie on Shudder. He also worked on another horror movie called It Stains the Sands Red. Excuse me. I interviewed composer of Eric. Oh, my upcoming interview is going to be Eric de Aguila, who is interesting. He's the composer of the first scripted series for Grindr.
Okay.
Grindr the Weird. Oh, cool. We have Father coming in the clutch here. We're all done, Father. But
You have them. Hold up. Did anyone talk about how Bob Wesley returns in Star Trek? They're in my pocket.
Oh, in the animated series, right? Does he come
Yeah.
back?
no, we didn't talk about that, so that's cool.
No, we didn't. No.
And Bob Wesley was Gene Roddenberry's pen name.
And we didn't talk about Scotty's Nest making an appearance, a.k.a. the Jeffries tube.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about. Oh my gosh, there's so much we missed. Good grief! There's only an hour. There's only an hour. We can only do so much. Real quick, Fathery, what did you like in a sentence? What did you think of this episode?
I think that I would give it 12 Magni. What's the Z Magni
Z
prize?
Mag- Yeah.
I give it 12 Z Magni prizes out of 1 vaporized ensign.
Oh, that's very good. Very good. We missed you on the discussion. It was a fun discussion. Hope you'll get a chance to check it out later.
I was eating chicken and watching college football with my brother-in-law.
Oh, that sounds like super fun. I want to eat some chicken. Maybe I'll have some chicken today. So Ruben was just telling us about a composer that he interviewed, and anything else, Ruben?
No, more interviews to come. That's about it for me.
And you can still check you out at ruben-rights.com, right?
Ruben-rights.com, popwaxium.com, ruemorg.com. Rue Morgue is a horror website, so that's where all the horror stuff will end up.
Rue Morgue. All right, cool. Who didn't I get? Fathery, check out Text Trek, everybody. Yesterday, Text Trek broke down the latest episode of Lower Decks, which is called The Spy Humongous, and it's really funny if you haven't seen it. There's a really fun discussion. And then Earl Grey Trekkie, what have you got going on? Today we're talking about Blink on your channel, which is like one of my favorite episodes of Doctor Who.
The Doctor Who episode?
Yeah, Doctor Who.
Oh, I love that episode.
You just promoted it for me.
Speaking of horror.
It is. It's like a kind of
an awesome episode.
Fantasy horror. It's true. And then also tomorrow, are we doing it? Is it happening?
What's happening?
Tom Holland?
Yeah.
Yes. It's like the week. It's like Starfleet Boys Happy Week on EGT's channel. I'm so excited. So go check out Earl Grey Trekkie. That's coming up pretty soon, I imagine. And then now here we go. So Dadmiral, tell us what's going on your channel while I cue this up here and introduce this trailer.
Yeah, well, it's a small teaser trailer. As if you saw last week, I am now back on my channel with some Lego builds. So I did all the editing for the video, but I also created this small teaser trailer. And Sohail and I spoke, and we said, well, why don't we put it on the show? So this is my teaser trailer for this week's show.
Here you go. That's awesome.
There you go. It's my 15-second teaser trailer for the new show that's the new bit that's coming on my channel this weekend. So I'll probably be posting it tomorrow. Now we've done this, I'm going to post my teaser on Twitter tonight. I will say that we showed it on the show on the Starfleet Boys show today.
Thanks for letting me debut it. That was pretty cool.
No, it was great. Yeah, so I will be doing teasers from now on. I've found a little niche where I can edit and create these small teaser trailers. So I'm enjoying myself again. So yeah.
Excellent. So everyone go check out Trek Cat and subscribe on YouTube. Please subscribe to Tex Trek and Earl Grey Trekkie as well. They could it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, but it could really help out. And please consider subscribing to Starfleet Boy as well. We would love to also have your subscription. Thank you, everyone. Live long and prosper, and we will see you next time.